Taehyung sat on his bed, staring at the phone with a deep frown on his face. He had just received a text from his parents, informing him that they had signed up for a college trip that he had no interest going in. He knew it was important to them, but he couldn't shake the feeling of disappointment and frustration. He sighed heavily and decided to text his girlfriend, Ryan, hoping she would understand his predicament. Hey Ryan, my parents are sending me on this college trip that I really don't want to go. I wish I could just stay here with you instead. Ryan's response was almost immediate. Oh no, that sucks, they. Why don't you come and stay with me at my apartment? My sister won't mind and we can have a mini staycation together. Taehyung's eyes lit up at the suggestion. He couldn't believe how lucky he was to have someone as understanding and caring as Ryan in his life. Without hesitation, he replied, That sounds amazing, Ryan. I'll pack my stuff and head over to your place tomorrow. Ryan opened the door to her shared apartment, a wide smile on her face as she welcomed Taehyung inside. Finally, you're here. I've been waiting forever, she exclaimed. Wrapping her arms around him in a tight hug. Taehyung returned the embrace, feeling a sense of relief wash over him as he held Ryan close. Thank you for letting me stay with you, Ryan. I really didn't want to go on that trip, he admitted, his voice filled with gratitude. Ryan led Taehyung into the cozy living room of the apartment where her sister was sitting on the couch reading a book. As soon as Taehyung saw her, his breath stopped. It was as if he was hit by a truck suddenly. She was so beautiful, her hair falling on her face as she read the book. This is my sister Yoonji. Yoonji, this is Taehyung. She introduced them with a warm smile. Yoonji looked up from her book and smiled at Taehyung. He blinked his eyes. Clearing his throat, coming back to the real world. Nice to meet you, Taehyung. Make yourself at home, she said before returning to her reading. Ryan led Taehyung into the spare room where he would be staying during his time at their apartment. Here's your room, Tae. Feel free to make yourself comfortable and unpack your things. She said, gesturing towards the bed and dresser. Taehyung smiled gratefully at Ryan before setting his bag down and starting to unpack. Ryan watched him for a moment before speaking up. I thought we could order some food and watch a movie tonight. What do you think? Taehyung looked up at Ryan with a bright smile. That sounds perfect, Ryan. I'd love that. He replied, his eyes shining with excitement, mind drifting back to Yoonji. Later that evening, Taehyung and Ryan sat on the couch in the living room. A spread of takeout containers and snack in front of them as they watched a movie together. As they sat watching a movie, Taehyung found himself stealing glances at Yoonji. Admiring the way her eyes sparkled in the dim light of the room. Van glanced over at Taehyung and smiled softly before speaking up. I'm really glad you're here, Tae. I missed having you around, she confessed, her voice filled with warmth. Taehyung turned to look at Ryan. I missed you too, Ryan. Being here with you feels like home. He admitted, smiling, reaching out to hold her hand in his. Ryan intertwined her finger with Taehyung's. A sense of contentment washing over her as she leaned her head on his shoulder. They sat there in comfortable silence. As the days passed, Taehyung found himself spending more and more time with Ryan's sister, Yoonji. They would often chat in the kitchen while preparing meals or watch TV together in the evenings. Taehyung couldn't deny the growing attraction he felt towards Yoonji. Her intelligence, wit, and beauty had captivated him in a way he hadn't expected. Knowing too well that he was betraying Ryan, yet his feelings were mixed. Ryan noticed how they would exchange knowing glances and whisper to each other when they thought she wasn't looking. At first, she dismissed it as her imagination, but as the days went by, she couldn't ignore the growing sense of unease in her gut. One evening, Ryan came home early from work to find Taehyung and Inji sitting on the couch. Their heads close together, giggling like school children. She felt a pang of jealousy and anger rise within her, but she pushed it down, telling herself that they were just having fun. But as the days passed by, Taehyung and Eunji's behavior became more blatant. They would disappear into Eunji's room for hours at a time, only emerging when Ryan called out for them. Their excuses seemed flimsy and rehearsed, and Ryan began to suspect that something was going on between them. One night, unable to sleep, Ryan got up to drink some water. She crept out of her room and tiptoed down the hallway. Her heart pounding in her chest, a feeling that something bad was about to happen. She was in the kitchen but suddenly heard some weird noises coming from Yunji's room. Frowning, she reached the door. She heard muffled voices coming from inside. Taking a deep breath, she pushed the door open. And what she saw made her blood run cold. Taehyung and Yeonji were locked in a passionate embrace, their lips pressed together. Van felt like the ground had been ripped out from under her feet as she stood frozen in the shock. Ryan, Taehyung stammered, pulling away from Yeonji in horror. It's not what it looks like. Ryan felt tears prick at her eyes as she struggled to find her voice. Her body trembled with hurt and betrayal. Yunji looked down at the floor, unable to meet Ryan's gaze. Let us explain, she mumbled, her voice barely audible. Ryan turned on her heel and fled from the room, her heart breaking into a million pieces. She couldn't believe that the two people she trusted most in the world had betrayed her in such a cruel and callous manner. Ryan, Taehyung called her, running behind along with Yoonji.